We're going to be joined on the other side by Jody Jenerette, who is going to share some insight with us on a player I'm actually very high on, Chris, and Kelvin Hunter. West Florence is – you call him a defensive back because he can kind of play – I think he's a guy who could play any of the three spots, nickel, safety, corner. And, as someone that I think is just a really good scheme fit for South Carolina, a really good fit for what they like to be as a program. He blocks punts, blocks kicks, just is an all-effort player. And then sometimes when you say a guy's an effort guy, that maybe is a roundabout way to say, oh, they don't have great speed. They don't have great traits. Hunter ran a 4.40 at South Carolina's camp. I think that was last summer. Ran a good shuttle. And, I think is a guy who actually, to me, maybe even is an early type impact guy for South Carolina. Of course, he committed earlier this week, one of three guys to commit on Wednesday. And I don't know, man. Chris is pulling up the film right now. He's going to give us a live film review, I think. But if we can get that commercial off there. But what did you think of this pickup? And, of course, we'll listen to Coach Jenerette here in a second.
Yeah, I think he's going to have the most brilliant insight because this is a guy that he's coached, obviously, for a while. But first play, Wes, on the highlight tape here for Kelvin Hunter, first few plays on special teams. So he's out here blocking punts. I think he had 6 blocked punts last year. So this is a kid that has a lot of traits, and West Florence likes to play him around the football. So he'll play in the box for them, and that's because he's really good for them at that level in run support. So in Hunter, yes, high effort guy, like you said, but he also has a lot of physical traits that I think will carry over really well to the college level. He has size because he's, 5'11" or a little bit over. He's about 180 pounds, which is probably for a Gamecock fan and for Shane Beamer, for Torian Gray, it's probably an exciting thing because when you look at Kelvin Hunter, you definitely get the sense that he could add more weight and strength and fill out that frame even more. And then, like you mentioned, the speed, a 4.4 type guy, and it shows on film. So he's someone that from a size standpoint, I think you made this point yesterday or sometime this week, Wes, from a skill set standpoint, he can probably play anywhere. I tend to think more of a nickel or a safety type, kind of like DQ Smith. Different player than DQ Smith, probably a little bit faster. He obviously has more experience playing DB too, but this is a kid that can run. He has the requisite size that you'd like to see to line up as a nickel or safety. High effort player, smart player, and he brings some physicality to the position too.
I look at him, and I think he may be the perfect nickel candidate because I think if you look at the film, and, we'll ask Coach Jenerette about it, you don't actually get to see – and not to say he can't do it. I'm just saying you literally, on the film, you don't get to see many examples of him, either dropping back into kind of those deep zones like you would at safety or, just kind of manning up and playing man coverage on someone. But with all the things you mentioned, I kind of want this guy near the line of scrimmage. I think the nickelback spot gives you that nice mix of, he has the athleticism, the speed to the traits will translate to him having coverage ability against most slot guys that you're going to see in the SEC. But then when you throw in his ability to blitz off the edge, like you said, the physicality, the ability to kind of shed blocks and make plays out on the perimeter because you're going to see so much of the perimeter screen game is such a big part of the college offensive schemes you see now. I think all those things translate to nickelback for me. Like, yeah, he could play safety. I think he could play corner in a pinch. I think that would be a little bit more of a transition or projection looking at him as a cornerback prospect. But, you see him just wiping people out on special teams as we watch this thing. I wouldn't want him playing too far away from the ball because he is so good near the ball. And they, at West Florence, again, we'll talk to Coach Jenerette about it, but they put him near the ball. They put him on special teams. They play him at running back some as well. And, Chris, I just think there's something to be said for fit in a program as far as what you want to build, as far as kind of that, like, blue-collar, high-effort, willing to do anything. He's, like, throwing his body around to make plays. And he does have a knack, I think, for getting the football off of opponents as well.
He does. I mean, the highlight tape is full. This isn't the same play over and over for Kelvin Hunter. He can do a lot of different things for you because you see the special teams ability, you see the blitzing off the edge, you see him in coverage, whether it's man or zone coverage, and then you see him in run support. And I think, look, Pete Limbo talked about this, I think, when he was on with Jay and Terry on the halftime show, had talked about special teams and how when they're recruiting guys, they really try to get a sense of, is this a guy that's willing to play special teams? Because that's obviously very important to them. Can he play special teams, A? B, is he willing to play special teams? And when you look at Kelvin Hunter, this is a guy that definitely checks that box. He's an unselfish player and, again, can do so many different things for you. So now let's go to the bigger picture too, Wes. Kelvin Hunter, I think number 4 prospect in the state according to On3 right now. Now if you're South Carolina, you've got 4 offers out in the state for the 2024 class. They're to the number 1 through number 4 guys. And you've got all of those top flight guys committed in the state, plus you got Blake Franks in the boat too.
Yeah, another big recruiting win for South Carolina. Not a surprising recruiting win. I think it was always going to be difficult for anybody to kind of unseat South Carolina. They were running in the number 1 spot for, I think, kind of the entire recruiting process. Once they offered Kelvin Hunter, they were the favorite. But something to be said for closing it out and getting the job done. Another early commitment, getting the top 4 prospects in state, as Chris said. Something for Gamecock fans to celebrate. And just seeing all those guys, Chris, now all the 2024 class to this point was on campus for your spring game. That includes the 7 guys who were already committed at the time and now the 3 who committed this week. So all 10 were on campus, building those relationships, really continuing those relationships, I should say, for most of those guys who already have gotten to know each other. They, of course, have the group chat with each other where they all stay in touch, and really probably one of the most close-knit classes I have ever seen to this point at South Carolina. And something I want to talk about later, we'll tease it a little bit. 2024 class is getting a lot of love, rightfully so, but this 2023 class that is already mostly on campus or partially on campus, I think we're actually already seeing that class may, as highly rated as it was, may actually have been underrated. So I want to talk about that a little bit later on. But we got to hit a break. Again, we're here, Firehouse Subs, Camden, South Carolina, and we come back, we'll be hearing from West Florence head football coach Jody Jenerette.
April is Alcohol Responsibility Month. Empower kids to say yes to a healthy lifestyle and no to underage drinking. A message from... It's important to have conversations with your kids that emphasize healthy living and saying no to underage drinking.
And welcome back in. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, long version, and we are live from 2184B West DeKalb Street in Camden, South Carolina, here at the Firehouse Subs. Wes and I are getting hungry.
We didn't pick the music, by the way. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah, we did not pick the music, but we did pick the location, and we picked to come out and visit. Larry Chandler not here today, the fine purveyor of all the Firehouse Subs locations in the Midlands. We miss him, but we're going to try some of his subs here in a little bit.
We picked our guest, though.
We did pick our guest, and our guest is West Florence head football coach Jody Jenerette. Coach Jenerette, really appreciate you taking some time to join us today. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you guys having me. Can't wait to talk ball with you guys.
Absolutely. We're excited about it, too. Thanks for joining us. Wanted to get you on the program to talk about several different things, but let's start with what Wes and I were talking about in the last segment, or who we were talking about to be more accurate, and that is one of your players who is now committed verbally to the University of South Carolina, and that's Kelvin Hunter.
Okay.
Give us some quick thoughts on Kelvin. Obviously, you've coached him for a while, very familiar with him as a person and as a player, but what stands out to you about him as a player, and what is South Carolina getting in him?
You know, obviously the thing with Kelvin that everybody loves is speed. He can flat out fly, you know, and that's you got to have that in the SEC. You got to be able to run. And he's physical. He loves playing in the box, which is a lot different than most high school kids are nowadays. They want to shy away from contact. He's a, in-your-face type player. And when you combine, 4'4", whatever he is, 4'5", with the physicality that he has, I mean, it's attractive. And there's a lot of schools that were attracted to him. But he can also backpedal. Obviously, at our level, we don't want him backpedaling as much because high school football is about being able to run the ball. And I think when he gets to college and gets with T. Gray and those guys, he can definitely learn how to backpedal. He can be a secondary type guy. But he's so physical. I think you got to roll him down. You got to know when to bring him down, when to let him play back, and that kind of stuff. And what a better fit than Coach Gray and those guys in South Carolina to understand how to use him. And I think he's raw. He's 190 pounds, but he's 190 pounds. He ran 22.9 miles an hour yesterday with our catapult system. So there's a lot of positives to Kelvin Hunter, and he is not even close to the player he can be.
Hey, Coach, it's Wes. Appreciate you doing this, man. So,
what's up, Wes?
Hey, man, I hope you're doing well. So I'm watching the film here. Actually, we had it pulled up, and Kelvin, the first snap you see on here, he's blocking a punt, making a bunch of plays on special teams. What does it mean as a coach to have a guy who is a full-on SEC FBS prospect, but he's out here just busting his tail, making plays on special teams?
I mean, we kind of I'm one of those. I'm one of the guys. I don't truly love special teams, but I know the difference it makes in a game. Mm-hmm. And we tell our guys, you have an opportunity to make a play right now. And we were a little different team last year. We needed that juice. We needed to get the ball back in certain situations. And he's got a knack for it, man. And it don't matter. You can coach block punts an hour a day. If your guys don't have a knack to get in there and do it, it don't matter. And he knows how to dip his shoulder. He knows how to run the leg. He knows how to run the hump, and he knows how to get long at the punter's foot. And I think Coach Lebo and obviously what they do, especially if they're going to love him, Coach Limbo, and he's just he's one of those guys that can do it. And he had 6 blocked punts last season. That's one of those things I've never heard of as a football coach. I didn't know that you could do that, and the sky's the limit for what he can do on special teams. But a block, there's nothing like the double thud of a block punt. If you did get that off that punter's foot, the game is going to change automatically. And thank goodness he's on our team making that happen.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Coach, you may not love special teams fully, but Pete Limbo does. And
no doubt.
Sounds like he's going to love Kelvin Hunter as well. What do you think positionally? Obviously Kelvin is pretty versatile, but if you're South Carolina, if you're Torian Gray, where's your head at as far as where you start him out from a positional standpoint in the secondary?
I mean, you hear all the pretty terms now with nickel and dime and all that stuff, but the nickel guy's taking over the game, of college football, and, it's leading into the pros as well. But he's that hybrid type guy. I think he can do a ton of stuff. I don't think he's a true corner in that aspect of things. But I do think you got to have that guy kind of roaming around, being able to run that true 4-4 downhill, using angles, using separation, the things that he can do from a just God-given standpoint. And, I think obviously he's a safety. I think he's going to be a walk-down type guy. They're going to use him as a nickel guy. He'll cover good enough if he has to, but, that guy needs to be near the ball, and they'll find a way to get him where it needs to be. But there's a ton of potential there with him and what he can do. Maybe not next year, the year after that, but by 2 or 3 years from now, when he's really got in the weight room and learned how to eat and that kind of stuff, he's going to be one that I think South Carolina fans are going to love.
If you're just joining us, we are joined now by Coach Jody Jenerette, West Florence head football coach. Coach, what did you see from South Carolina and their coaches and their staff, just recruiting him, making him and his family feel comfortable? It seemed like, outside looking in for the most part, Carolina maybe had a decent lead for much of the process, but sort of being in there and seeing how it played out, what did you see from the job they did to build those relationships?
Well, we took Kelvin down after his 9th grade year for a camp, and we showed up with zero expectations. He only had truly JV film. We only brought him up for like the last 3 games of his freshman year. So he didn't really have great film to offer. And he went and just ran a great time. And we were at camp that day, and we got there like at 9. And, Skylar Wise was helping work the camp. And she was like, you guys will be gone by 1 o'clock. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's about 4 o'clock. And he's still back there with Coach Beamer. So we go in his office, and I look around, and, Coach Beamer calls me in as well. And they went ahead and offered him that day, basically off his JV film. And, when you can run and people know you can run, you got a chance. I tell our guys all the time, everybody wants to get recruited. Everybody wants to be SEC. Everybody wants to play D1. You better run a 4.4 every single time on a clock if you plan on being a D1 guy at that position. And, obviously with South Carolina, what they've done so far with the recruiting rankings that they have right now, they've got a family-type atmosphere, and that term gets thrown around all the time. But there's something to be said for the way Coach Beamer and those guys are doing it. Coach Lucas is our recruiting area guy. He's fantastic. And obviously Coach Gray, the way he communicates with Kelvin, you can already tell they've got a relationship. And they're a little different than everybody else right now, to be honest with you, man. Like, we have schools coming our place right and left, and they just something about them cats when they walk in or you go there, that there's a different vibe there than anywhere else that has recruited Kelvin or recruited us. And I can't really, obviously I could tell you all day about the things they do, but that's that vibe that every single recruit they get knows that they care about them and they're going to be part of something special.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder, Coach, a little bit on my next question to
That's
you.
what I do.
That you do.
There you go.
Yeah, all the credit to you. But I did want to ask you about, I know you follow high school football, you follow recruiting in this state, and you follow Gamecock football and recruiting, and you have for a long time. So, it's not often that South Carolina staff comes in and signs basically everyone that they want in the state. And you look at the rankings right now, they've got 5 of the top 8, which are their 5 offers in state, and they've got the top 4 guys in the state committed. So what do you attribute that to? Is it just that relationship building capacity that the staff has shown that you saw in the process with Kelvin?
Well, I think obviously they've caught up with the actual facility type wise things. And, if let's say school A's got a $60 million facility, where school B better have a $61 million facility. And that's what they've done. They've shown that they're going to invest in what matters. And you can say the bells and the whistle don't matter. Well, it does. All that stuff matters when you're in the recruiting aspect of things. And when you're on par, there's no reason why you can't go and win. And it's a great location, number one. It's obviously in the heart of South Carolina. And there's a ton of talent in South Carolina. And it's that untapped talent that is finally getting tapped into. If you look in our area with the Sellers kid, the kid at Adams at Lake City, our guys that we have, that's just 3 or 4 guys right now to come off the bat. It's all legit Division I SEC guys. And to be able to have that central location, to have that many guys that can play in that small bubble area, imagine what you could do if you take that bubble to another part of the state or another part of the state. And it's just, high school football is growing like crazy because there's so many really good high school football coaches and programs that are believing in strength training and believing in working and believing in doing everything it takes to get their kids to the next level. And Coach Beamer's just attached onto that. And he's a South Carolina dude. I mean, through and through. When you talk to him, man, absolutely beyond the shadow of a doubt, that's his dream job. And whenever you have your dream job, you can make special things happen. And I think that's what's happening right now.
All right, so you gave me an in, and I'm going to bring up, this might be, at least on the field, a little bit of a sore subject, but you did bring up Lenore Sellers. And
yeah.
I know he had success against basically everybody he played, or not basically, everybody.
I knew this was going to go back to him, all right? I was ready for this question.
It was not a ploy. It was not a ploy.
Yeah, you did bring him up, Coach.
Yeah, you gave me an in, so I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
You put it up on the tee. But, tell us about your perspective of just what you saw out of him in high school, and then even the bits and pieces you've seen and heard since he got to South Carolina, too.
Man, if he didn't get hurt as a junior, they would have probably won the state championship his junior year, too. And I said that at a little thing we had there in Florence. He's just that kind of guy. He's a once-in-a-generational type talent. The thing that Lenore Sellers is, he's one of the smartest human beings I've ever talked with at that age group. And he's also, if he was an older guy, I told him I think the guy could fly a spaceship if he had to. He's that smart. He's just such a fantastic kid. And that's another term that gets thrown around a bunch. But when you talk to him, man, this guy's special. And this guy's a leader. And the fact that he didn't have 100 Division I offers, I will never understand that as long as I coach. That, to me, that kid was a no-brainer from day one. And obviously what he's done at South Carolina so far, people are seeing what we saw. I mean, there was, there was no hope on Friday nights. I mean, if it was 32, first down. If it was 4th and 1, first down. If it was 3rd and 8, first down. And, Coach Marlowe and those guys did a fantastic job with him. They put him in an offense where he could thrive, and that's what he did. And guess what? He's going to do the exact same thing at South Carolina. and he's one of those guys, man, that you just know is going to be special. And if he can stay healthy, the sky's the limit.
Coach, great stuff, man. Hey, we appreciate you taking the time today. Keep on doing your thing, man, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Appreciate you guys so much. Have a great day.
All right, that's Coach Jody Jenerette. Great stuff from him, man. Said Lenore Sellers can fly a spaceship. Chris, I'm not doubting it. I mean,
No.
Kid is special. Coach obviously got a first-hand view of him, and just everybody you talk to says Lenore is absolutely special. I think we saw a glimpse of that this year. But great stuff on Kelvin Hunter as well. Looking forward to watching him grow this year as a senior and then watching him at South Carolina.